All right, so I'm so excited to be here. I'm very honored that Larry asked me to do this. I feel like it's a huge responsibility. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to see so many McCulloughs here and Weavers. They both come in. Today has not reinforced anything for me. It has told me that I made a good choice in moving away to find a husband.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I'm probably related to everybody, but I don't know. You know, we keep digging back. I don't know what the next we may find. Before we leave today, I would like to ask all the descendants of William McCullough. That means if I've been messaging you and pestering you to death, that means I want you in a picture before we leave. Okay? I would like to get descendants of William McCullough that are here.
Yeah, because.
The Weavers too.
The Weavers too. There's a ring print in the ladies' restroom. It is silver. Did you make a ring? I might go up here more and video in this session for some family members that are out of town. But I promise you I got a big enough mouth. I think you'll hear me in the back. I think that's a McCullough trait too. This presentation, I'm going to make it available for you to see through Google Drive. So if you want the presentation, you can give me your email before you leave, and I will happily give you access to that as well as the video from today. Another thing that's been reinforced is looking back, and I look at my second great grandfather, or I look at Noah Weaver that was mentioned, who's in my line. The choices you made influence for generations. Because I think about all that was poured into my life, and there are things that go back to Noah Weaver and William McCullough. And so the choices you made influence generations. I don't know why I'm getting emotional.
Okay.
But think about that for generations to come. Your grandkids are affected by what you do. And today has just reinforced that for me so much. So with that being said, let's get going. So I researched, and there's a red book I'm sure some of you have seen as the Autauga County Heritage book. And if you look up McCullough in that, you're going to find Hiram McCullers. Now, it is said in that book that he was a Scottish Baptist preacher that moved over. I don't think that is correct, but I haven't found complete verification yet. What I do think is there may be a Hiram in further generations up that may have been a Scottish Baptist preacher that came over. But the Hiram McCullers mentioned in that book, I have his birth date and his death date, and he is believed to be buried in Harris County, Georgia. He is believed to be the son of Drury McCullers, and who is also the son of David McCullers, and they are in the North Carolina area. I've not had time to dig into that, but I do have the website where I'm starting to dig into that and find verification of everything. I just didn't want to put information up that I had not verified. But he married a Susanna Smith in December of 1816. I do know this to be true because I found their marriage certificate. So that was in Georgia. Now you notice that the spelling is ERS at the end. And that is also the spelling on the marriage certificate, ERS. It's also been seen as ARS. And I think there may have been a couple others, but there's a lot of variations. But on the marriage certificate, it is ERS, and he married a Susanna Smith. From there, they had 11 children. 6 died as young adults. You can see she was having children from 1818 to 1840. Bless her heart.
That's what killed her.
Yeah.
I don't know about any of them but Matthew Richard, because that is who is in my line. So the rest of the presentation is going to be based on Matthew Richard's line. So Matthew Richard was the son of Hiram and Susanna. He was born in 1824, died in 1875, and he's believed to be buried in Meriwether County, Georgia. And he married a Mary Autry in November of 1848. Matthew Richard passed away. I don't know from what, but he passed away. And after he passed away, Mary decided to move to Alabama. Now you can see they had 6 kids. Mary decided to move to Alabama around 1880 with the 3 youngest kids, Fanny, James Edward, and William. I don't know what happened to the 3 oldest. I don't know if they eventually moved. I don't know if they stayed. But Fanny married Joe McCorkle after moving. Both are buried at Alpine Baptist Church. I'm not sure about their line. James Edward, who in the family Bible is referred to as Uncle Ed, is also buried at Alpine Baptist Church with his wife, Nanny, who he had married before they moved. They had 2 sons. Those 2 sons passed away at a young age and didn't have any descendants. He did later marry again, and they adopted a son, but I'm not sure what happened after that. And then there's William, who I'm a descendant from, and he married Mary Bell Weaver. So this is where the Weavers tie in. Mary Bell Weaver was the granddaughter, I believe granddaughter of Noah Weaver. Noah Weaver had a son, Wilson Langley. Okay? Wilson Langley was Mary Bell's father. So, if you're a McCullough in here today, you are a Weaver too, through Mary Bell and Noah Weaver.
I have a picture of William and Mary Bell.
It's coming.
Okay.
It's coming. So the part of Georgia they were in, Harris, Meriwether County, is right here in the Columbus area in southwest Georgia. So this is where they came from. This is a lot of what I told you. I don't know why they came. I know that Matthew Richard had passed away. I don't know why the older children didn't come. I would like to know the story. To me, that's a mystery that I want to find out. I've told people I feel like Nancy Drew the past few weeks because I've been trying to find. But the more things I find out, the more things I find out I don't know. So maybe that's something we can find out. Another thing is the ERS changed to OUGH with this generation because there are documents with James Edwards and William's names on it. That's ERS when they were born or in Georgia, but their headstones say OUGH. So this is the generation where it changed. That's another story I'd like. Did somebody get mad at somebody? And sometimes it was an education issue, but part of me wonders if that's not the case because James Edward and William were both named as justices of the peace in this area. Both are found on lots of documents as justice of the peace of the area. So I don't know the story on the name change either. That's something else I'd like to find out. These are some of the graves that are at Alpine Baptist Church. This is Mary Autry, wife of Matthew Richard, and son J.E., his wife Nanny, and their 2 sons. I don't have Fanny McCorkle's and Joe's because when I went there, I didn't realize that was a McCullough. So I'm going to have to make a trip to Alpine to get those pictures as well. Another mystery we found out, I think I found out, not 100% sure, but I'm excited. Joyce McCullough Warts has this mystery portrait in her house. And we never knew who the woman was. We just knew we were told we were related to her. I think I found her in this process. Through pictures Melba had and findagrave.com, we have tracked down it's Archibald and Nancy Autry. And these are believed to be Mary Autry McCullough's parents. So I think that's who that is. I'd never seen that picture before this. They're not McCulloughs, but they had a daughter that married in, so I threw it in there. All right, so we said William McCullough married Mary Bell Weaver. Mary Bell Weaver's parents are right here. It's Wilson Langley and Permelia Hester Ann Jones. Okay? They had 12 kids. And Mary Bell was one of them. It was mentioned that there was a set of twins, but there's also a set of triplets in this line. Here are the triplets. Praise God, that didn't happen to me. Thank you, Lord. This is a sister, and this is a cousin, Della Lockhart. This is Permelia with her triplets, but they also had Mary Bell. And this is William McCullough and Mary Bell Weaver. Okay, their house was right beside where Joyce lives now, for those of you that know Joyce. And this was my second great grandparents. So Matthew Richard and Mary Autry's son with Wilson Langley Weaver's and Permelia Jones's daughter. He was blind. He would pull up, according to my Uncle Lee, he would pull up beside the church at Bethel, and he'd just sit in his car and listen to the sermon. There's a couple other pictures of William and Mary Bell. And they married in December of 1891, and they had 7 kids. These are the kids in birth order. James Franklin McCullough, J.F. McCullough, that Mr. Walker named, that funded the move to the church. He is one of their kids. But we're fixing to go through all of these and their impact on the Jones area and just break it down where they are. Eventually, I'd like to expand this presentation to include even their, like my generation and so on, but that was just too much for today. So this is William and Mary Bell McCullough with all of their kids. This is William holding John Jackson McCullough. That is Aunt Mary Owsley, who I'm sure a lot of you know from the piano teacher. That is Mary Bell McCullough. That is baby Tommy, Thomas Leonard McCullough. And that is the oldest, Matthew Wilson. Back here you have George Washington, William Jefferson, known as Jesse, and James Franklin, and his nickname was Jim's. I could not find the actual picture. This is a copy on a piece of paper. I don't have the actual picture, so if somebody has that, I would be really excited. This is another picture of William and Mary Bell with their children in front of their house. I'm assuming their house. I'm not positive, but I think it's their house.
You know what concrete the house?
Is that their house? Joyce. So I think these are the 2 oldest. So one of these is Matthew, one of these is Jesse. The baby would be Tommy. There's Aunt Mary. I'm guessing that's John Jackson, and probably George and Jim's one of those 2. I just don't know who's who. But that's their house. Before my great uncle Lee died, he left some memories of his grandfather, and he would talk about he had a cane syrup mill, and the family would all get together one day and they would grind cane syrup and have enough for the year. They would walk away, for just my great uncle's family, they would walk away with 30 to 40 buckets of cane syrup, and that would last them all year. And they'd use that for cooking and meals. But they'd also have to go cut all the trees for grinding the cane syrup. I do have this document that I'm going to share with all my people, so I'm not going to sit and read it to you, but that was my grandfather Matthew passed down to my dad Keith that one thing he was adamant about is when it was hog killing season, that the ice in the barrel had to be thick enough before you could kill a hog, because it had to be cold enough to kill hogs. And if the ice wasn't thick enough, he would feel it. He was blind, he couldn't measure it, so he would feel it. If it wasn't thick enough, you weren't killing hogs. And then Joyce, his youngest granddaughter, can remember a rolling store coming by, and he would always give her a nickel or dime to go get something from the rolling store. This is brothers John, James, and George. No, these are not the triplets. These are McCulloughs. These are William McCullough's sons. I think this is James. I think that's John. I think that's George. I'm going off a label on the back of the picture. But I just throwing some pictures in. There's James or Jimps and George right here. George is the one who lived in the house that Larry Caver lives in now on 22, the old McCullough house. I don't know who this brother is. I don't know which one. Pretty sure that this one's George though. You'll notice a very prominent chin in a lot of these pictures, and I've determined that that is a Weaver chin. I have looked through all these generations, and I think that is a Weaver chin is where those genes come from. William and Mary Bell are buried at the Weaver Cemetery on Soledad Ranch Road, right before you get to Bethel. That house at the front of the road, that blue house, that was Aunt Mary's house. Sitting and overlooking Bethel. That's where Aunt Mary lived. So they had 7 children. The first one was Matthew Wilson. I cannot find any individual pictures of him, but he's buried at Weaver Cemetery. He died in World War I. He was in France, and he died of pneumonia. And the Autauga Heritage Museum actually had this certificate that was given to his dad, William, letting them know about his death. This was also in some of the records they have. And this was written, the reason we know in France, this was written in the Bible, the McCullough Family Bible. Child 2, William Jefferson McCullough, known as Jesse. This is Melba's grandfather, born in 1895. He's also buried at the Weaver Family Cemetery. And he married Hattie Mae Patterson. Here's a picture of Hattie Mae and them together. Pictures have been so much fun. I would say y'all make sure y'all label your pictures, because it has been so much fun to go through them, but there are so many that we don't know. So make sure you label your pictures. This was their house. Didn't you say it was painted by Miss Willie Raspberry?
Yes.
Make sure I couldn't remember at midnight last night. So this was their house in Jones. This was between Buck Creek and the top of the hill as you go up. It was kind of in the middle of there. If you know where I live, it's real close to where I grew up. They had 7 children, 5 girls, 1 boy, 2 boys. This was JW and Aunt Dot. I know that she's not really my aunt, but everybody called her Aunt Dot. Mm-hmm. Just like everybody called Aunt Mary, whether they were related to her or not. And Harold, another brother. This is Jessie Mae, Mary Alice, and JW. This is an older picture. This is Jessie, Mary Alice, Hattie Mae, baby Harold, and JW. And then we found a picture of the sisters. We have Jessie Mae, Mary Alice, Maureen, Evelyn, and Dot. There's Harold and JW. And this is a McCullough family reunion here at the community center. Maureen, Dot, Louise, which was JW's wife, Jessie Mae, and Melba. Now, I tried to highlight some of the grandchildren that were prominent in the Jones area and with some of their contributions. And a lot of y'all might remember Aunt Dot. I couldn't find a picture of her at her store. I stalked a lot of Facebook profiles. So if I stole your pictures, I'm sorry. They were out there. So they ran they were active at Milton Baptist Church on County Road 1, and they ran the Milton Mercantile for years and years and years. This is just a picture of them that I wanted to include just because they are people that I remember growing up. And then there is J.W. McCullough, who lived right down the road. And he was very active in the Jones community. He was a Mason. He was chairman of the Deacons at Jones Baptist and a founding member of the Jones Fire Department. He helped, I did not know this, he helped organize the Autauga Baptist Association, and his signature is on the charter paperwork for that. And now Melba serves as the clerk for the Autauga Baptist Association. So when I say your work matters for generations, it does pass down. He and his wife Louise both served as postmaster at Jones, and at one point J.W. was also the carrier. He was the founding member of the West Autauga Water Authority, and also at one point owned the Jones General Store. I don't know if it was called Jones General Store at that point, but
I don't remember either. I think it was Jones General Mercantile.
okay.
Yeah, that's all I know, Jones Store.
You go to Jones Store.
So you can see him in his car with the U.S. mail on top. Also have them at the post office. There they are at the fire department. There was lots of women too in that founding fire department. Miss Minnie was in there. Yes. Miss Golda was in there. Mr. Bobed. And there was that article Melba had about all the women, her first set of women that were in the founding members of the fire
Probably written
department.
by Jim Plott back there.
Yeah.
Here's JW at his mason pinning ceremony. So, and just a couple of special family pictures too that I included. Child number 3. Now I got a lot of pictures of this one because this one's my line, so I might be a little bit biased. James Franklin or Jimps McCullough. James and Annie. Annie was a Spider. There were 2 McCullough brothers that married 2 Spider sisters. So the Spiders were very prominent to us too. They are both buried at Weaver Cemetery. Jimps for a little while drove this school bus for Billingsley and was a janitor there as well. He made $2 a day driving the school bus. Now sometimes his son Lee would drive the bus, but when Lee drove the bus, he only made $1 a day. So it was very important that Jimps drove the bus. While he was janitor, his sons Matthew and Lee also helped be the janitor. And the way they helped is they would stay after school and they would resume the janitor duties when he left on the bus. And they would spend the night in an old store as 2 high school students doing janitorial duties. And then Jimps would come back the next morning and bring them breakfast, and he'd take over the janitor duties so that they could go to school. And they would do that all week, Monday through Friday. And then they could go home on Friday. So, thought that was neat. Just a couple other pictures of James and Annie. This is them in San Antonio, Texas. I'm not sure why they were there, but that's what the picture was labeled, was San Antonio, Texas. They had 7 children, 3 boys, 4 girls. It's one of those things that ran out of time. I didn't get to go put the birth dates back there, but I'll fill that in. This is James and Annie's mom, Ollie Spider. She was originally a Herod, and she was married to Ernest Spider, and they are the ones that donated the land for Bethel Church. And this we have James, Annie, and their daughter Nettie Mae, who's also here today. So this is another one of James and Annie with their children. This is oldest son Matthew with his wife Jean. That was my grandparents. Youngest son Junior. Lucille, I think his name was Lucille. That was Aunt Dean, Willa Dean Nichols. And Nettie Mae's right here with cousin Joyce. Nettie Mae and Joyce were always together. Missing is Uncle Lee, who was in the Army, and Louise, who was in, I don't know where she was at that time, but her husband was also in the Army, so they were not there at the time of the picture. This was the family again, James and Annie. It's Junior, Matthew, Lee, Louise, Lucille, Nettie Mae, Dean, and this is Ollie's, Annie's parents, Ernest and Ollie, the ones who gave the land for Bethel Baptist Church. If you notice right here, you'll see that Matthew's eye's a little messed up. So Uncle Junior told me one time the reason his eye was messed up is because he was out working his honeybees before they took that picture. And he was stung before they took that picture. Another picture, I call this group the Magnificent Seven. This is the children of James and Annie. Standing at Matthew's property, you see all his tomatoes. He loved his tomatoes in the background. These are the brothers. That's Matthew, Junior, and Lee. And then that's Junior in school. He looks like a mischievous little thing to me. This was taken on a Sunday, and the reason I know that is my papa always wore overalls. So if it was Sunday, he wouldn't have on the overalls because he wouldn't work. But so this was a Sunday because there are no overalls there. This is the oldest Matthew, the youngest Junior. This is Sister Louise with her husband. And this is Annie again with Dean and Lucille, Pam, and Junior. Is that Jane? I thought there was a bigger age difference, so that's Jane.
That's Jane.
This is James and Annie's grandchildren.
Not all of them.
Not all of them. But notice it's all girls except for my dad. It's a lone boy, and everybody's a little stressed, and he's barefoot. It's another picture of some of the McCullough grandchildren. Again, all these girls. You got Keith out there by himself. Matthew worked for Norfolk Southern Railroad. He was a deacon at Bethel Baptist, and he also served as a church clerk. He married Jean McGee, and he always wore overalls. So he loved his honeybees. We still carry on the honeybee business today. These are my kids working with the honey with my dad. Sometimes they're not always thrilled to go out and work on the honeybees, but you know, it pays for their extracurricular. So we do still have the honey business today, hence the thing with the shirt I wore. But we are very proud to still carry this on through the family. Uncle Lee was a helicopter pilot, and that was something he was very, very proud of. He lived most of his life in Alaska, most of his adult life. One of the things before he died, he was just shy of his 94th birthday. And he would tell me, I don't want to die yet, but it wasn't because he was scared of death. It was because his goal was to be the oldest McCullough man. He wanted to live longer than any other McCullough men. And after he did, he told me, I can go now because I'm older than any other McCullough man. This is Willadine McCullough Nichols. They owned a store in Maplesville. She started a library at Bethel Baptist Church in 1974. And she was a nurse. This is her nursing school graduation picture. And she crocheted blankets for everybody in the family. If you were a niece, you got a blanket. So I had to throw a picture in. This is the one I got when I graduated high school. Child number 4, George Washington McCullough. This is the one that lived in the big McCullough house down on 22 that Larry Caver lives in now. Born in 1899, so just at the turn of the century. Died in 1965, and he married Bertie Roy.
She's one that drew all those pictures for the churches.
That's coming too. That's coming too. I don't know which kids this is, but I'm pretty sure that this one is George. This is a picture of the house in 1951. Mary Bell's parents, Wilson and Vermelia, also lived at this house. This is George after picking peaches and on the porch in 1956. I'm not sure whose house that is, but it was labeled 1956. Another picture of George and Bertie Roy. And Bertie Roy was known for this painting. I know there's a painting at Bethel. There was one at Milton. Is there one at Jones? No. There's one at Alpine. There are copies of this painting around, and she painted this. This is the painting that is at Bethel Church. George Washington had 4 children, and I'm not sure of the order, I'm not sure of the birth order. Mason, June, Francis, and Billy. These are all June. This one is Francis. You'll see June in 1940, and we go through 1951. So an 11-year span. This is Francis in 47 and 48. Francis's I'm gonna point him out. Francis's grandson Nathan is back there too. So this is Francis and June
And Billy.
and Billy, and then you got Francis. Is that Billy too? Okay. So this is George and Bertie Roy and children and a couple spouses. So you got Bertie Roy here. You got Pat here. Pat was Mason's wife. June, she married a Goddard. And Francis McCullough Truesdale. Francis married Bill Truesdale right here. This is Billy. This is Mason. And this is George. So mama and daddy, 4 kids and 2 spouses. This is Billy with his daughter Rose, and June and Bertie Roy. Now, one thing Billy was known for was his Ashley heaters. And he had this big shop behind his house, and I was always so fascinated when I was little with that big old shop. But an Ashley heater is one my dad still uses today, and that is how I learned to spell my name, is on an Ashley heater. So, thank you, Mr. Billy. I'm assuming that's Bertie Roy with the kids. That's Francis, and that's June. We got Mason, June and Billy, and Francis and her son Neil in 1956. Child number 5, this is Aunt Mary. She's the only girl of the children. She was born in 1904 and she died in 1999, so she just missed 2000. She was married to Willie Harris Owsley. They had 2 kids, W.H. and Curtis. They were 18 years apart. And this is them at maybe a recital or maybe a wedding.
It was their 50th.
50th wedding anniversary. Thank you. I need to put that in there. So there's Willie and Mary McCullough Owsley, and there's, like, I remember Aunt Mary like this. So, she was the pianist at Bethel Baptist Church for 72 years.
Yep. Picture that. She taught a lot of people.
She taught maybe over 1,000. I know hundreds, but she taught at Stanton. She taught at Maplesville. She taught at Billingsley. She taught in Valley Grande. She taught at J.E. Terry. She taught music all over. She taught here at
Right
Joe.
here,
Okay.
in this building.
Then we went to her house.
And went to her house.
Yep. God bless her house.
So she is definitely a staple in our music history in this whole area. That's a picture at a recital. Here you can see great niece Melba here, great niece Melanie here.
Rose is in there.
Which
Right
one's
here on the
Rose?
end.
Rose is far right on the bottom.
Right there.
That's
And
Rose.
that's Faye and
There
Kay.
you got Faye and Kay Raspberry right there.
Wade Chandler.
Wade Chandler.
Sheila Reed.
Where's Sheila?
Wade
Is that
was
Sheila?
actually my
Yeah, that's
student.
Sheila Reed.
Okay.
And that's Faith Reed next to her.
Faith Reed right here.
And then Ren
That's Sheila
Reed.
next to Faye.
Ren, yeah.
That's
Ren.
Rand.
And that's Benita.
Bonita, Lenore.
Okay.
And then Alice Spear between me and them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, take you back in time a little bit there. Child number 6, John Jackson McCullough. So John Jackson McCullough was born in 1907. He is buried in Bessemer, and he married Thelma Owsley. And you may hear people refer to Miss Kate's place on County Road 16 between Buck Creek and Bethel. Miss Kate was John's mother-in-law, I'm sorry. Thelma was the daughter of Theodore and Kate Owsley. There's another picture of John and Thelma. We have their grandson here today, too. They had 3 kids. Correct me if I'm saying, is it Sherry and, is that how you? Sherry and McCullough, Shirley McCullough, and Betty McCullough. Now, Sherry and Shirley, you can see they were twins, but they were born on different days.
How about that?
Sherry was born at the Old Autauga House for 22, but we had to go to the hospital with Shirley. I don't know if Shirley caused problems the rest of the time, but had to go to the hospital. Got Sherry out and had to go to the hospital for Shirley.
Was that at my house? No, that's,
They were born at your house.
yeah. I mean,
He was born, not.
but
well,
the
he was
twin one was born down the road.
Do what?
Down at the hospital.
The first one was born in my house, the second one in the hospital.
Yes.
Okay.
On different days.
Well, that's cool. That's interesting. You gotta remind me of that, because I'm collecting that stuff.
This is John and Thelma with the twins. Another one of John and Thelma with, I'm assuming with the twins, but I thought this was really neat. This is Grandma Mary Bell Weaver McCullough with the twins. This is the only picture I think I found with her and some of her grandkids. So I was really happy to find that one. Again, the twins and their sister Betty, Sherry and Shirley and Betty. And the 3 of them all together. And finally, child number 7, Uncle Tommy, Thomas Leonard McCullough. He was born in 1909, and he is buried at Spider Cemetery, which is right beside Bethel Baptist Church. And he married Aunt Toy Spider. Her real name was Etoya, but nobody ever called her that. They called her Toy. And she made the best tea cakes. And when you went trick-or-treating to her house, that's what you got. You got tea cakes. I still remember that. They had 1 daughter, Joyce McCullough Lawrence, who's with us today. Both Tommy and Joyce have served as Bethel Baptist Church clerk, and Joyce has also served as the treasurer for decades. So Bethel Baptist Church is very prominent in the McCullough history. And honestly, I didn't know some of that history that you gave today that ties in with the Weavers. So that was really neat to put 2 and 2 together. This is just Joyce when she was little. She said she can remember her mom making that dress from a pair of her daddy's pants. And this is her wedding announcement. And when she was little, I hope she didn't get mad at me for putting all that in there. These are William McCullough grandchildren in the military. I don't know that I have them all. I have 2 slides. Correct me, family, if I'm wrong, okay? Matthew, this is James's son. Uncle Lee McCullough, he was a helicopter pilot in the Army. Billy McCullough was in the Army. Mason McCullough was in the Army. J.W. was in the Army. Sheridan was in the Marines, and W.H. Owsley was in the Army. These are the McCullough family in-laws. So you got George's wife, Bertie Roy. You got James's wife, Annie. Aunt Mary's husband, Willie Owsley. You've got Tommy's wife, Toy. Jesse's wife, Hattie Mae, and John's wife, Thelma. And Annie and Toy were Spider sisters. This is all the McCullough, we think all the McCullough girl grandchildren. We're not sure who that is. We got Francis, Evelyn, Dot, Louise. Not sure who the baby is. I think that's Uncle Junior, but we're not sure. Shirley, June, Betty, Mary Alice, Jessie Mae, Lucille. Is that right, Pam? Is that Lucille? All right. Maureen. Then we're not sure about her. This is Aunt Dean Nichols. There's little Joyce. And I'm thinking that this one might be Nettie Mae or this one, but I'm thinking this one. Well, we figured this was Nettie Mae because she was right beside Joyce. They were always together, so we figured that was her. Anybody know who that one is? We got to figure out that one. I don't know that one. These are some of the boys' cousins and one wife. So we got Mason, Matthew, Lee, W.H., J.W., and that's his wife Louise. And this is Sheridan and Billy. And this is a cousin to some of them. This is Nelson Longprior. So he wasn't a McCullough grandchild, but he was in the picture. And here's Joyce and Nettie Mae, way back when. And this was a year ago, last May. This was last May. So, Curtis, that's Aunt Mary's youngest son. Mystery Girl, not sure who she is. And Junior, you got Curtis and Joyce, Harold, Mary Alice, and W.H. And here is Hattie Mae, Grandma Mary Bell Weaver McCullough, and Aunt Mary McCullough. I put my references in there. I had a lot of pictures. I pestered a lot of people, and I appreciate you helping me. And I'm going to leave my contact information. I would love if you have pictures to share, or you have corrections to make, or you have additions to add. I would love to add that into this and build this as something that we can pass down for generations to come so people know this. But if you want me to share this with you, make sure you give me your email address by the end of, before you leave today. And that's what I got.
How are we gonna do now?
Hey, shameless honey plug too. We do have some honey in the truck.
Okay.